As I blogged previously, and check out that link embedded below, Survodutide is a dual GLP-1 glucagon receptor agonist that's being developed as a weight management medication and also as a potential treatment for MASLD, formerly known as fatty liver disease. Stimulation of the GLP-1 and glucagon receptors together mimics a natural human hormone called oxyntomodulin, and that may provide health benefits beyond the benefits of GLP-1 alone. And you can read more on the potential benefits of stimulating GLP-1 and glucagon together in a prior blog link below. The Synchronized 1 trial, which was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and as a disclosure, I am one of the authors of this publication, and I was also the Canadian lead investigator for this trial. This was a phase 3 weight management study, including 725 people in 14 countries with obesity, and these people did not have diabetes. They were randomized to receive Survodutide 3.6 milligrams or 6 milligrams weekly, or placebo, together with a reduced calorie diet and physical activity. At baseline, the average age was 47, average weight was 109 kilos, average BMI 37.9, and 41% of participants were men. At 76 weeks, we found a weight loss of 12.2% with Survodutide 3.6 milligrams, weight loss of 13% with Survodutide 6 milligrams weekly, and a weight loss of 5.4% with placebo. Discontinuation rates of study medication were higher than ideal in this study. By the end of the study, 35.3% of people with Survodutide 3.6 milligrams, 34.3% of people with Survodutide 6 milligrams, and 40.1% of people in the placebo group had stopped treatment. And more on discontinuations coming in just a minute. But pause a minute. For those who did take the treatment as prescribed through the trial, the weight loss was 15.3% with Survodutide 3.6 milligrams, 16.6% weight loss with Survodutide 6 milligrams, and 3.2% with placebo. Waist circumference and eating behavior scores improved with Survodutide, alongside a small reduction in A1C, which is a marker of blood sugar control. Remembering people in the study didn't have diabetes, the A1C went down by 0.3% with both doses of Survodutide versus a small increase of 0.1% with placebo. Systolic blood pressure was improved by 7.5 to 7.9 millimeters of mercury for those taking Survodutide as intended through the study versus 3.2 millimeters of mercury decrease with placebo. We also looked at body composition with MRI in a subset of participants. Here we found significant reductions in total body fat of up to 28% with Survodutide versus 9.5% with placebo, a reduction in the visceral or central fat tissue reduced by up to 34% versus 11.8% with placebo, and liver fat by up to 63.1% versus 24.5% with placebo. And what is particularly interesting to me is that there was a greater liver fat reduction in the 6 milligram group, about 63%, versus the 3.6 milligram group, which was 46%, and that was without much difference in weight between those two groups. So that suggests that there may be a weight loss independent benefit here for Survodutide to reduce liver fat. And that's really exciting, given that the majority of people with obesity have MASLD, which is fatty liver, and 1 out of every 3 people with obesity have inflammation of the liver related to liver fat, and that's called MASH. And I've got another blog on that embedded below. Check that out. The most common side effects with Survodutide were gastrointestinal, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, typically mild to moderate in severity. Gastrointestinal side effects were a leading reason for stopping study medication. So about 18% of people in the Survodutide 3.6 milligram group and about 20% in the 6 milligram group stopped treatment for these reasons versus 3% in the placebo group. So it's really important to note in this study, there was limited flexibility in dosing of Survodutide until very late in the trial. Greater flexibility in dosing may have reduced GI side effects and allowed more people to tolerate treatment. A substantial number of people, about 17% of the placebo group, started GLP-1 treatment during the trial, which is not actually permitted, but some patients chose to do that anyway. And that's likely responsible for a greater weight loss than is typically seen in the placebo group. So this really reflects the challenges and the ethics of conducting placebo-controlled trials alongside an environment where we have increased access to medication and decreased prices of GLP medication as well. Placebo-controlled studies are unfortunately still required by regulators, and in my view, it's high time that the world and its regulators moves away from having placebo arms in these studies and uses other medications as comparators instead. There was another trial published as well, and that's called the Synchronized MASLD study. And that was including 216 adults with obesity and MASLD. This was a phase 3 study. 38% of people had type 2 diabetes in this study, and this was done in the US and in Spain. Here, people were randomized in a 2-to-1 ratio to receive Survodutide 6 milligrams weekly or placebo for 48 weeks. Researchers found that at least 30% reduction in liver fat, as assessed by a technique called MRI-PDFF, was achieved by 84.2% of the Survodutide group versus 24.3% of the placebo group when treatment was taken as prescribed. And that was alongside a 12.2% weight loss with Survodutide versus 1% with placebo. The liver fat content was completely normalized in 61% of people taking Survodutide versus just 5.7% of people taking placebo. Improvements in waist, blood pressure, and blood sugars were also seen. Again, here the most common side effects were gastrointestinal, most often during dose escalation, and again, mild to moderate in severity. So similar to the study we've just talked about, the Synchronized 1 study. Treatment was discontinued in the Synchronized MASLD study in 41.1% of the Survodutide group, about half of which were due to gastrointestinal side effects, and treatment was discontinued in 40% of the placebo group. Again, in this study, there was limited flexibility in dosing of Survodutide until very late in the trial, and again, greater flexibility in dosing may have reduced the gastrointestinal side effects and allowed more people to tolerate treatment. So there's a study underway called the Liverage study, and that is going to further evaluate Survodutide as a potential treatment of MASLD. So the bottom line here is that Survodutide is emerging to become a promising addition to the next generation of obesity medications, demonstrating clinically meaningful weight loss with robust loss of fat from the liver, with benefits suggesting that there may be some benefits potentially independent of the weight loss. A more flexible dosing approach may help to improve gastrointestinal side effects and tolerability. As a disclaimer, I'm an investigator in clinical trials of Survodutide. I receive honoraria as a continuing medical education speaker and consultant from the makers of Survodutide, which is Boehringer Ingelheim.